Hey, what's up, guys? It's Will back for another fight card prediction. We're going to be predicting UFC on Fox 23 from the Pepsi Center in Denver, Colorado, as the ladies take centre stage here as Valentina Shevchenko faces off against Juliana Pena, more than likely to determine the number one contender and the next shot at Amanda Nunes. Overall, the fight card's pretty decent. I mean, we've got Cerrone against Masvidal, we've got Francis Ngannou, Assuncao, Sterling, a couple of fighters I'm looking forward to seeing coming into the UFC, some flyweights, some people over here in Europe. So overall, a really decent card coming off UFC Phoenix, which I don't think I might have a better card the whole year. I picked a lot of winners. I'm number one in UFC Pick'em. I cashed all my bets. I won over $1,000 on DraftKings. So I had a pretty phenomenal night, which was something I wasn't expecting, because that first 5-6 fights in that card could have went either way, because the kind of quality in those matchups were not great. So to come out of that with a fairly positive record was pretty good. I just want to say thank you for the messages. I got about 7 or 8 messages from people who won money off my picks, and won some really big money as well. So and some new subscribers who came on who were watching there that cashed those bets. All my cappers on Twitter, Kelton, Z, Best Fight Picks, we all seem to cash really bigly. MMA Profit, guy kills it every time. We all cashed last week, so last week was a good week for everybody. Hopefully it continues for this card taking place in 8 days' time. As always, check out everybody down below for your podcast, for your fight predictions. You know who they are. I've mentioned them already. Kelton, Z, the MMA Profit. There's John's the 30-26 breakdown. He makes great videos. Go see him. James Lynch with his interviews. I always get a lot from those interviews of people coming into the UFC, like a few on this card here. And there's the various podcasts that I support as well. You can play me on DraftKings, Bilber85. Come and play me there. You can come follow my Capper Tech and see how my bets are going over there. And I'm on Bet MMA tips now as well. So yeah, overall, the card is. I like the card. I actually like the card. I think it's going to be an interesting one here, and we're going to get straight into it. Well, one of the fights I am really looking forward to. It's probably my top three fights I'm really looking forward to in this card. It starts off in the flyweight division as we have Alexandre Pantoja against Eric Shelton. I've literally within the last hour, maybe hour and a half, been watching taping these two. Been going back and forward on it a little bit. I originally went with one fighter, and then after watching more taping this guy, I feel like I'm going to pick him. I feel more confident picking him and finding out where he's been training. I think it's just gave me that extra motivation to pick him. So we'll start off with Alexandre Pantoja. Probably one of the best flyweights outside the UFC. I know Magomed Bibulatov just signed with the UFC, but Pantoja was one of the guys who I had my eye on to come into the UFC. He was the RFA champion. And great overall record, 16-2. I saw this guy about 4 years ago. I think it was Shuto. I was watching in the middle of the night, a Brazilian card, and he was on there. Transferred over to America, and made himself a great career by winning the title there against Matt Manazares and beating Damasio Page. Went on to the Tough Show, got to the semis, lost to Oga Kuba, I think it was, in that fight there, to the semis to get into the final. But what's this guy's strengths? Overall, he's a really good, well-rounded fighter, but his true standout part of his game is his ground game. If he gets you in the ground and he gains a dominant position on you, you're in big trouble. Like when he won the RFA title there, it was just kind of like a scramble, and he got caught. He got in the better position there, and he choked out Manazares, and he went straight to sleep. It was a sick rear naked choke. I mean, in the house, he had a really tough fight with Brandon Moreno. But one of the things that in the Page fight as well, he was dropped in that fight, Damasio Page, before going into that tough tournament. He leaves his hands, his defense is not great, and his chin can be got at. So that's where I think that Eric Shelton overall could really get to him here. I mean, Eric Shelton's a guy coming in. I didn't hear this guy one bit before the tough show, and he came in and he really surprised me in that show. I thought he was a really good fighter to come out of that show to move on to the UFC and potentially have a real run in that division. I think he has got a potential run in that division. I'm actually going to pick him in this one. I like him. I think he's got enough to keep this on the feet. I think if he goes to ground, he's very underrated down there. He jumps on things very quickly. He did that on the show against Yoni Sherbatov, who they were saying was the better guy in the ground, and he jumped on his back and put Sherbatov to sleep. It was a nasty, nasty submission as well. I think he's the better guy on the feet. I think he's the quicker fighter. He's got the better hand speed. He's got the better movement. I think he can get on there. As long as he doesn't get his back put on the mat here, I think he can win this fight. And the fact that he's been training in Denver at the Elevation Fight Team, he's been training with Jose Shorty Torres, who defends his belt this week in Titan, and he was in TJ Dillashaw camp on the run up to his fight against John Lineker. So he's been training with good guys. Love the fact that he's out there at the Elevation Fight Team, and it's made me confident in this pick here. It's a very close fight. I don't think he'll be betting this fight, because I do think it can go either way, but I'm more confident picking Eric Shelton. So, and he is an underdog. I might bet him if the line's really silly, which I don't think it will be, but my pick will be Eric Shelton via a decision. Light heavyweight division, we have Marcos Rogerio de Lima against John the White Mike Tyson Phillips. A lot of you guys might not know who John Phillips is, and I think he might garner himself a lot of fans coming into the UFC if he's matched up right. He's the former Bama middleweight champion with a 21-6 record with like 19 wins by knockout. This guy has heavy hands, and if he touches you with them, you're going down. This is why I think this fight with De Lima could be a very fun fight, because I think De Lima is going to come out and want to throw hands as well, and going to test the metal here, see who's the biggest, who's got the biggest power, and who's got the better chin. I mean, Phillips, a little bit surprised he's getting this shot in the UFC, because he was supposed to defend his Bama title, and that was at middleweight, and he came in 18 pounds over, and he trains out at SBG. He didn't on that occasion. They thought he was, I thought he was, but he wasn't. But for this camp, he has returned to SBG over there in Dublin, Ireland. So I like the fact that he's there. I like the fact that he's at 205 as well. He might be a little undersized for that division, but this guy has legit power, and pretty underrated ground game. I was just talking to a couple of guys on Twitter about this here. He's got more than enough down there. Frank Trigg was going on about his punching power, even ground and pound. The guy's got heavy ground and pound. And this is why I'm going to pick John Phillips here. I don't like the fact it's in Denver. It's at Elevation. So this is why I think this fight could finish very early, and they might go at it because the gas tanks will deplete. And if this goes into the later rounds, I think maybe De Lima might have the advantage there. But I'm going to pick John Phillips via knockout in the very first round. For some reason, I do not see this getting out the first round. I think Phillips' power is huge, as is De Lima's. So I think this finish in the first round is a really good bet, depending on what your number's going to be. I like De Lima as well, but that fight against Antigulov was not good. He went to the ground with that guy and got caught. I think John Phillips is going to catch him, so that's why I'm going to go a first round knockout for John Phillips. Lightweight matchup, we have Jason Gonzalez against JC Cottrell. Both guys coming off losses in the UFC debuts. Jason Gonzalez to Drew Dober, and JC Cottrell came in like 10-11 days notice against Michel Pesares. Gonzalez is just your rudimental stand in front of you fighter who you can get at. He drops his hands, movement's really non-existent. I think for that last fight he actually was at Team Alpha Male. For this one I believe he's at Millennia MMA with Lawrence Larkin and his team down there in California. But I don't really see much in Gonzalez. I've never seen much of him when he was on the Tough Show. I didn't think he was great then, don't think he's great now. Cottrell, on the other hand, I do think, from what I've seen before that fight with Pesares, he's a tough guy. He's a very scrappy guy, and he's gonna, wherever this fight goes, he's gonna battle it out and try and win the fight wherever it goes. And I think he will get takedowns off that. I don't think Gonzalez's gas tank is overly great, so I can see JC Cottrell. He's also been in Denver for the last 3 weeks. I've seen him in Aljamain Sterling's Snapchat. He comes out of Oklahoma originally, but he's been there for a few weeks, and I like that with fighters as well. I'm going to go Cottrell via decision. Middleweight division, Eric Spice against Alessio Chirico. Been going back and forth in this one. Originally I was going to pick Chirico, but I think I feel a little bit better picking the veteran here in Eric Spicely. I do like Chirico as a fighter. I think he's a young up and comer coming out of Italy, but I just think he's got a lot of work left to do to really establish himself and make himself the better all around fighter. I can see holes in his game. Tough guy to get down to the ground, but I think Spicely has got the takedowns and the submission games to, or the trips and the positions to maybe put him against the cage and take him down. Don't like the fact that Chirico barely beat Gareth McClellan in his last fight, and he gassed out pretty badly in this one, and that's something I've kept my eye on because it's at Denver, it's at Elevation, so Spicely coming out a TriStar, you know he's going to be well trained for this fight with Faraz Sahabi. I've watched some videos on rolling on the ground. Really fun guy to watch on the ground. A tough guy on the ground. I think a pretty underrated ground game as well. We saw that he went down to Brazil. Not many people do this. Go down to Brazil against Thiago Santos and come out and finish it in the first round with a submission. Do I see him finish it? I can see this one being a pretty ugly scrap, but I see Spicely winning. Could be a split decision. I'll not be betting this fight in the slightest. But my pick will be Eric Spicely via split decision or a decision. Light heavyweight, we have Luis Frankenstein, Henrique de Silva against Jordan Big Swinging Johnson, which I think is a great nickname. Really baffled when this fight was put together. Henrique was supposed to fight Ion Cutelaba in March down in Brazil, and the fight got pulled. I think Cutelaba got injured, and he got put into this fight. Now Luis is coming off a really tough loss, first loss of his professional career to Paul Craig in Sacramento, no more than a month ago, maybe 5 weeks ago, and he took some damage in that one. He got caught up a little bit and he got stopped, so I'm really surprised that they're throwing him in here very, very quickly against a guy who, I actually really like this guy. I love guys that come out of the MMA lab. I just think that they're a really top camp, and they really look after their fighters, give them good game plans, and maybe not for Lieberger, which was might be one of my worst picks I'll make all year. It wasn't a great pick last week, but Jordan Johnson, he was the RFA light heavyweight champion, the last ever light heavyweight champion, 6-0 record. Watched his fights against I watched his title fight, I forgot the guy he was against now. I seen him against Sean Asker the fight before that. This guy looks to put you against the cage, looks to take you down, kind of what Paul Craig done, and he's very, very good with his submissions as well. So I think he's a purple belt, so it could be quite even. I think that Luis Henrique has definitely got the advantage on the feet. I think on the ground I give it to Jordan Johnson but I haven't seen an awful lot of that except for the Asker fight and his title fight, which I'm really sorry I forgot the name of the guy he was against to win that title. It was a pretty dominant decision win there. Frankenstein is dangerous, very, very dangerous, but I think he gasses quick, and being at Denver again, I think that Johnson can capitalise on this, grind him up against the cage, take him down. I think he could stop this fight as well. I think this is a submission prop that I might have a little look at, and I'm more confident in picking the UFC newcomer here, which is something I try and shy away with unless I have really good information on them or I'm really confident in. I just don't like this quick turnaround for Henrique de Silva. I know he's a really fun fighter to watch. I just don't like the quick turnaround. So I'm actually going to go with a third round submission for Jordan Johnson. Welterweight division, Bobby Nash against Li Jingliang. been going back and forth on this one a little bit. I was going to pick Bobby Nash originally. Watched his fights over the last few days, just literally in the last hour. Watched his fight with Luis Gonzalez, a former UFC vet, where I think he lost the first round, but he came out literally in the first 3 seconds of the second round and caught him with a huge left hook that really floored him, and he stopped that fight there. So he's getting his shot in the UFC. I'm seeing a lot of people on like your pick'em sites and stuff picking Bobby Nash, but I feel more confident in picking Li Jingliang. He's just an overall scrappy guy. He has power himself. We've seen that in the Diego Lima fight. He came out and blasted him in the first 90 seconds, I believe it was. Anton Zafir, I know those guys. Diego Lima I actually quite like as a fighter. Anton Zafir I don't rate as a fighter too much, and he came out and smoked them guys there. I like him in this one. I just think he's a more grimier fighter. He's going to just make it ugly, and I think I can see him winning the decision as well. But I think if he gets to the ground, he's known as the leech, so he sticks to you down there, and he really can put it on you as well if he wants to. So I'm feeling more confident picking Jingliang here. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if Bobby Nash wins this fight via knockout or a TKO, but I feel more confident picking Li Jingliang via decision. This fight I'm really looking forward to. Raphael Assuncao against the Funkmaster Aljamain Sterling. Now you'll know if you've watched my previous videos, big Aljamain Sterling fan, but I'm also a real big admirer of Raphael Assuncao. The Assuncao brothers are really a legit tough load of brothers. They're really tough guys coming out there of Georgia, originally from Brazil. And it's great to see Raphael back because he suffered a very terrible injury right at his prime when he probably could have got himself a title shot. And then he came back after that win over Brian Caraway back in 2014 to come in and face TJ Dillashaw, who we saw last time at UFC 207. That the guy's a legit fighter. But his skills are something to admire. That fight with John Lineker was just his speed, his timing, just his overall game is really maturing. And him v Cody Garbrandt is going to be one hell of a fight. Aljamain Sterling coming off that first UFC loss, the first loss of his career, I believe it was as well. I did not see that coming, but I'm forever underestimating Brian Caraway, and I have done for years. It's that tough show when he was a little bit kind of scaredy, a little bit of a scaredy cat on there, and it didn't sit right with me. And like he pulls out of fights all the time. He did it with Jimmy Rivera, so I find myself hard picking Brian Caraway. But Funkmaster went for it in the first round and gassed himself out, and Caraway, being the veteran that he is, exposed him for that. What I like here with Funkmaster is he's been in Denver for the last 3 weeks. He's getting his body acclimatized to that elevation. Assuncao, I know, is not going to be in there until early next week. He's still there. I did see he said he's not going to be in there. I think it was a tweet or an Instagram post. He said he's not going to be there until Monday. So is that enough time? I think for a professional like him, it probably is. Aljamain Sterling, what I like about him, he's long, very unorthodox. I think he really needs to up his striking game though, because that's what he needs, because his ground game and his wrestling is very, very good, but his strikes are okay, they're unorthodox, but he doesn't really put his combinations well together. His footwork can get a little bit languid at times, he can get stuck in there. I did think that Assuncao, now I know this is maybe going out on a limb a little bit, he did look slow in that Dillashaw fight. Maybe that's because Dillashaw was very fast. Him coming off an injury, and it was a big injury, saying that, so I find it really tough to pick this one. Like I said with Augusto Mendes last card, with the Sacramento card with Paul Craig, I like the underdog play in this one, but it's a 50-50 fight. You're either going to look like a genius for the pick, or you're going to look like a jackass. I'm going to stick with Aljamain Sterling. I still believe that he will make the adjustments just enough to win this fight. Not confident, but I've made the decision within the last kind of maybe 6 weeks. If I feel confident in underdog, I'm going to have to go bet it. I did it with Paul Craig, cashed. Did it with Augusto Mendes, cash. I'm going to stick with this here and go with Aljamain Sterling to win there. But I've seen a lot of people betting on Raphael Assuncao And I don't think that's an overly bad bet myself, because I think it's a very close fight that could go either way. I'm going to go a split decision win for Aljamain Sterling. Next up, Nate Marquardt against Sam Alvey. Just a shout out to the UFC betting sharks on there, which Sam Alvey is a part of. Great having fighters in there who give us some info about fighters through the week and stuff like that. So, and a big fight for him here against Nate Marquardt. Coming off that win over Alex Nicholson down in Mexico, he's got himself a really quick turnaround. And facing Nate Marquardt here, who's always a dangerous opponent here in his fights. I thought he was tailing off a little bit. Then he came out last time and he absolutely wrecked Tamdan McCrory. For me, this is all about Sam Alvey surviving that first round with Marquardt, because Marquardt's power really stays with him at that weight. I think that he trains at the Grudge Training Centre as well, Marquardt, so he will maybe be a little bit more acclimatised. I know Alvey's already out there in Denver at the minute, but I've struggled with this one. See, I love Sam Alvey, think he's a top guy. My original pick was Nate Marquardt. The more I've watched about it, and if the fight does go longer, I like Sam Alvey, but I'm not confident. See, I originally came out when I first had this fight with Nate Marquardt, and I'm going to go with the younger fighter who I think his chin will stay relevant through the 3 rounds, where I think that Marquardt could tail off a little bit in the later rounds if Alvey catches him, and Alvey's been known to go into the later rounds and catch you with shots. So I'm going to go Sam Alvey, but I'm going to go a TKO. I'm going to go a TKO in early round number 3 for smiling Sam Alvey. So we are now on the main card, and it's starting off in the featherweight division with Alex Bruce Leroy Caceres against Jason the Kid Knight. I have not been on the Jason Knight kind of bandwagon, and I'm not going to miss out anymore. He really impressed me in that fight down Australia against Dan Hooker. I should have seen it in the Jim Aylas fight. I was very impressed with him in that fight. I thought Hooker was a tough matchup, and Jason Knight really did well in just keeping Dan Hooker at bay, and going down there and winning in Australia is a big thing. So nice to see he's getting a quick turnaround as well against Alex Caceres here, and I think this is a very winnable fight for Jason Knight here. Caceres, he's coming off that main event loss to El Pantera Yair Rodriguez, who looked absolutely phenomenal, let's just say, against BG Penn last week. For the last 3-4 weeks of that camp, Alex Caceres was training, he was sparring with BJ Penn a little bit there, so this fight came together probably about 10 days ago, so it's a quick fight that has been put together. I just think that Jason Knight is the tougher overall fighter, and I think that he's going to just get enough off and be aggressive enough to keep Alex Caceres at bay. If you give Alex Caceres time, that's when he can hurt you. Don't back up him. You have to come at him and really put it on him, and don't let him put it on you. I know it sounds simple to say, but you've got to put him in the back foot to really do that. I think Jason Knight could do that, and I think wherever the fight goes, I think if this was to go to the ground, it'd be a really fun fight. But I think wherever it goes, I think Jason Knight is just the fighter that's kind of, I think that Caceres has maybe levelled himself out, where Jason Knight is really kind of coming up and passing him by. And I'm going to jump on the train now, because I say I've went against him the last couple of fights and he's completely proved me wrong. I'm going to go Jason Knight via decision. Heavyweight division, Andrei the Pitbull Arlovski against Francis Ngannou. Now, this Ngannou is just a freak of nature. The guy is a man mountain. He is huge, and with every fight, this guy, he is just making such progress that it's frightening what this guy could end up being within the next 12 to 18 months, because we've seen his striking power. In his last fight in Albany in December before UFC 206, he was against Anthony Hamilton, never threw a strike, got literally put up against the fence, and then he grabbed the arm of Anthony Hamilton going for a Kimura, and took it and had enough power and enough stability in that submission where he took it to the ground and he finished him with that submission. And it was crazy. It's crazy seeing guys like that who get can just make such progressions fight to fight, and we don't know the full potential of this guy yet. That's the scary thing, and I'm sure he's going to show it in this fight here. Arlovski's coming off that TKO loss to Josh Barnett. I just do not like this fight for Andrei Arlovski, but just be careful betting Francis Ngannou, because he is still very raw as a prospect, and he could completely turn up in this fight and shit the bed and not do anything, or not do what you expect him to do. And Arlovski is a veteran of the sport, and he's been around a long time, and he might have a great game plan coming out of Jackson's there. For me, I just don't see it. I think this guy is a lock on your DraftKings team as well. I think that if he's going to win, he's going to get a finish. But yeah, Francis Ngannou for me. I think he's going to catch him in that first round and put him to sleep. So first round TKO for me for Francis Ngannou. Co-main event, which I think maybe it could have been the main event, but I think the main event fight is a good fight as well. Donald Cowboy Cerrone against Gamebred Jorge Masvidal. I've seen some of my boys on Twitter. They're on Jorge Masvidal. His number was very, very nice. I'm a big fan of both. You have to be fans of both guys, because both guys bring it, and especially Jorge Masvidal is one of the most underrated fighters in the whole entire game, with really slick skills, and just like his flurries of combination. Once he knows you are hurt, this guy is like a shark, and he just attacks and puts a beating on you. It was a little bit unfortunate with that fight with Jake Ellenberger, what happened, but he was clearly winning that fight, and there's nothing else you can really say with that. Donald Cerrone looked a little bit vulnerable against Matt Brown, but did get the spectacular finish. He took some shots there where that he needs to be careful with Masvidal. I think if Masvidal targets the body especially, I think you can get Cerrone there. I think that Donald Cerrone has to target. I think that leg kicks are definitely going to be there for this guy. And maybe try and mix up with some takedowns. I know Masvidal's all around a great pro, but I just think that if Donald Cerrone can mix it up with his kicks, not leave himself open to like the combinations that Masvidal can throw, use the leg kicks. I think you should look for takedowns personally, because I like to see it go to the ground. If I was a better of Donald Cerrone, I might still bet on Donald Cerrone if the price kind of changes a little bit. If you don't know by now, my pick is going to be Donald Cerrone. I don't like the fact that Jorge Masvidal sometimes, on occasions, thinks he's won the fight and lays off a little bit, and that's cost him in the past against Ali Quinta and so on and so on. It's a tough fight. I did say, and I have been saying on Twitter, that I'm not going to bet this fight, but if the lines get closer, I am going to probably bet Donald Cerrone. But what a great fight. And whoever, either I'm going to lose out if I bet Cerrone, or the people I bet on Twitter that I speak to are either going to cast Masvidal. So good luck to those guys. Hopefully, if I bet Cerrone, he comes through. But it's that old adage with Donald Cerrone. I mean, he's not in a championship fight. He's not in a fight for number one contendership. So he usually wins those fights. So that's kind of what I'm going on there. But tough fight against Masvidal. I'm going to go decision for Donald Cerrone. And the main event of the night, Valentina, the Bullet Shevchenko against Juliana, the Venezuelan vixen, Pena. Another really good fight, and a fight I've been going a little bit back and forward on. But I think this is a fight where Juliana Pena takes her first loss in the UFC. I really do. I was tweeting yesterday about Valentina Shevchenko against Holly Holm. I think personally it's one of the most underrated performances of 2016. Clearly lost that first round against Holly Holm. Get hit with a nice combination, got taken down. But from the very first second of round number 2 to the very end of round number 5, she completely dominated Holly Holm with beautiful counters, beautiful leg kicks. Anytime that Holly Holm would come in to kind of boxing range, she would throw that counter left. I think it was the counter right, I think it was, that she kept on throwing. And anytime that Holly would kick, she would literally throw a really quick low kick to the bottom of the leg, just above the ankle. And it was just a phenomenal performance from Valentina Shevchenko. I mean, she was a huge underdog, and I remember I cashed that. I can't remember the exact number, but I know my boy Dan Levy, Best Fight Picks, he got a 305, which is a great number. I think I was maybe 280 if I remember right, but I could be wrong. I think we all know what Juliana Pena wants to do here. She wants to take this fight to the ground, and I think that's a strategy you can use with Valentina Shevchenko, but Shevchenko in her fights in the UFC, she's used takedowns as well. She did it with Holly Holm and she lay in her in the second round, and like Holly Holm had nothing off her back. Sarah Kaufman, who is probably a better grappler than Holly Holm, she did it to that and kept her on the ground as well. So she, all around, she's a very, very good fighter, but her striking is very, very good. Pena's going to want to get this in the clinch, look for a takedown, and just look to really pound you out. And she can do that. She has done that in the past. But I just think that Shevchenko's going to batter off here. And I think she's going to pepper her with strikes. Could I see a finish in this one? Possibly. Maybe accumulation of strikes for Valentina Shevchenko. But I think that the smart play is to go via decision. But that being said, I do think it's very, very close. I know MMA Kelton, who you should follow on Twitter and on here on YouTube, and go subscribe to his videos. He makes a whole host of good videos. He's already got a great number on Valentina Shevchenko via decision. If I'm going to bet anything on this, it's going to be that probably. Not unless Shevchenko gets to a plus number. If she hits a plus number, I'm going to jump on that. So my pick is going to be a 49-46, 48-47 win. Either of those two scorecards for Valentina Shevchenko. So that's my picks for UFC on Fox 23 from Denver, Colorado. I will be back for the returning, I cannot wait for this, the returning Korean Zombie as he faces off against Derek Bermudez. Super Bowl weekend in Houston, with overall some really fun fights. Alexa Grasso's on there, which I'm looking forward to. And there's just some decent fights. And I think James Vick against Abel Trujillo got made today. So yeah, there's some really good fights. Chaz Scaling, that's back in there, Torres and Rollins. So good fights. Come follow me on Twitter, WillMartin7MMA. UFC Betting Sharks on Facebook, go help those guys. Follow all the guys I put down in the drop down box below. Come follow me on Carpertech. Come play me on DraftKings. I'm always there if you need a game. So thank you very much for watching. I will see you all very, very soon. I'll be back for that card in the very near future. Take care and enjoy the card when it comes round next Saturday night. Thank you.